And of course, I must confess right at the outset, Professor, that as somebody who is such an avid cricket fan and a book lover in general, this is, I can unconditionally say that this is by far the best cricket biography that is out there. And I'm comparing it to other books that I've also read recently, like, for example, Saurav Ganguly's autobiography, Kevin Peterson's autobiography, which we'll talk about some other day because it just wasn't up to the mark in my estimation. But yes, what I really loved about the book was the chronological ordering of the stories and the fact that you also have summary scorecards right at the end. In fact, it was more about cricket than about anything else. If I were to compare it with, for example, Shane Warne's biography, which seemed like two-thirds of it was non-cricket related and only one-third of it was cricket related. But with this particular book, what you see is what you get. This is exactly it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is all about Sachin Tendulkar. But having said that, Professor, you are, of course, not just an arm's length biographer for this particular book. You are, in fact, a co author. So if I were to ask you this question, that if you were, for example, an arm's length biographer, would the final product, would this book have turned out a bit differently than what we see in this current iteration? What would be your thoughts on that?
That's again a good question. That's a good question because of two reasons. One, this is out and out Sachin's book. Let's be clear.
Mm.
This is not Boria's book. I'm a co-author of the book and I wrote it, but it is not my book. When I went ahead and wrote, say, 11 Gods and a Billion Indians, that's my book. And you will see my imprint, far more controversial, far more, maybe a very different eye. One of the criticisms of this book, and I'm aware of that, is that it's politically correct. Now, with Tendulkar, you've got to understand that at 41, the man was Bharat Ratna. Whatever he says, Omar Nizam or Boria Majumdar, every word that he says will be interpreted, decoded, dissected, appropriated, and followed by a legion of people. So one critical comment, which is perhaps unneeded, can ruin lives. So Tendulkar has a very different life compared to each one of us. So maybe if it was me, I would have taken a lot many more liberties. I would have perhaps pushed a couple more questions which are more critical. But with Sachin, you understand who he is. You've got to understand that there are certain things he can do and certain things he can't do. So that is why I say this to everybody, that unless you understand who the man is, you have to become his alter ego for 4 years to be able to do the book. It is impossible to write a book of this nature. I'm extremely proud of what we were able to produce. I'm aware of the critical point that, Joe, it's politically fine, because this is not supposed to be a provocative narrative of Indian cricket. This is about Sachin Tendulkar's life and the way he has led his life and played his sport. So this is his book. So the question, if it was my book, would I have made it different? Maybe yes, but this is not my book. And I'm extremely conscious of that it is Sachin's book and it is supposed to be Sachin's book, and that's how it will be.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think that's very well said, Professor, because as long as you are happy with the book, then we, the readers, are also happy. And I think that you've done an excellent job in collaborating with Sachin on this book. As I said, that I'm absolutely, I'll say very shamelessly that this is probably the best book that I've read when it comes to any cricketer autobiography or biography. And anybody who's watching or listening to this podcast who hasn't read the book yet should definitely go and get it as soon as possible.